For today.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you all for being here. At this time, can I get a recommendation that the closed meeting be closed, and the board certifies that to each member's knowledge, only business matters that were lawfully exempted from open meeting to which the certification applies, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion concerning the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mrs. Garner and a second from Mr. Palmer. Any discussion? Mrs. Giammatteo, roll call, please.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Garner.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt.
Yes. At this time, letter Roman numeral 5, Superintendent's information items. Mr. Nichols, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt, members of the board, for coming to this special meeting tonight. We have several things that need to be updated and voted on, and that's why we requested it. First of all, last Tuesday night, a week ago, we had a capital improvement committee meeting as well as a joint education meeting. The capital improvement committee meeting was pulled together because the time has come for Cleveland Construction to be able to identify the colors. We, at administration, had worked with Diane from Upton Architecture in putting the colors together, and it was being presented for board members to be able to look at. There was some concerns about some of the colors, and so it was determined that it would be best to bring the information to the full board for the decision-making process of if we need to move with their recommendation or take on some changes. And so I've asked if Mr. Upton and Diane and Eddie would be available to be able to share the information tonight with you, because we do need to get this information voted on and approved and sent over to the Cleveland Construction. So I don't know, am I going to turn it over to Diane or am I going to turn it over to you, Bill?
Thank you all, Mr. Upton, Diane, and Eddie. Thank you all again for being here this evening to talk with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Nichols. We're always excited and happy to be with you. And since we've been over some of this before with some of you, we're probably going to try to streamline it. But if you find out we skipping anything or not spending that time on it, stop us. We're here to do whatever you want. But we're going to try to make it efficient. Basically, we have color boards here to indicate the different colors that we're suggesting for your consideration. But we want to say if you take any two of us and put us out here, we're probably going to have different colors that we like. So you tell us what colors you like or don't like, and then we're going to do what you tell us to do. We have no personal attachments to any color stuff. Say, I hate that one, I love that one, whatever you do. Just agree amongst yourselves if you can. Yes, sir?
All right. My question is, what do you suggest? Because it's hard for me to look at a little square and tell what this whole room's gonna look like. You've seen that. So I'm guessing that's what y'all based y'all's opinions on what the large scale look of the color would be.
Now, what we do is we look at colors, we make up different psychology of colors, we look at colors of spaces, we will make carpet samples on floors, we find the biggest areas, we look at it, we study it, and then we recommend things that we feel like are appropriate. And we know colors are subjective, so it's not just one perfect color, so if you see something different, that's okay with us, that we include a sizable amount of effort, especially guys like me, and to look at the different colors, when we go together, how people react to the different colors, all of those things to try to make sure that we're giving you a good guidance to start with, and then we also know that not everyone follows. But we also know that preferences make a lot of difference, that colors
Okay.
do impact people differently, so
Can
we
we-
want you to keep that in mind, and Diane will go over a couple of those.
I guess what I'm asking is, can we go start with your suggestions?
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Yeah,
do you
that's-
not think that would be the
That
most
would be the-
efficient way?
Again, the board members, I would assume that, God, I said it again. I would think that you all have looked at this on your iPads and studied this since the meeting last week. And again, I'm thankful for Diane and everybody for being here to set these boards up. So I would suspect, Diane, that all of these are your recommendations for the new schools. I know I have studied them in length. I'm sorry I wasn't able to come to the meeting, but has every board member had the opportunity to look at the color schemes?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go around the table. And Mrs. Smith, I'm going to start with you. And do you have any questions? And I'm going to, I guess, maybe rely on Diane, who was really one of the main ones who put these color schemes together. If you would answer any of the questions that the board members might have. And again, and I'm going to start on this side of the room with Mrs. Smith.
I would like to ask a question about the gym. I see you have the Phoenix in red and the other part in sort of a beige color. Are these the only colors that will be on the gym?
We've been studying the gym, so let me get back over here. And I have some more visuals. I had a PowerPoint, but we didn't have technology here, so.
That's okay.
I apologize for that. But the gym picture that you probably have was an idea of another gym we saw in another school.
Okay, this is the one.
Oh, okay.
Just the
So-
floor.
The
So
floor.
what we've done, we've been, actually, I have this in PowerPoint, I can read it closer, but we've been studying the gym floor, and Mr. Palmer, in our meeting last week, mentioned we should get with the athletic directors.
Mhm.
We'll go over this a lot more.
Mhm.
So, this is very small.
So basically, we want to light up the gym, make it exciting, get the red color, get the field starting, everybody's eyes, and get the basketball game going.
I'm gonna give him a skirt.
So, this is a small visual, but I can pass it around, and then I have another visual. I did a quick rendering today. of an
Thank you.
iPad also.
But Diane explained last Tuesday that that brown or that tan is just the wood.
That's the
That-
maple wood.
That's the wood.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So it's all wood floor.
All
throughout the
right.
entire gym.
Okay.
So that's from our shop drawing that we received, so it's not gonna show actual.
I like the Phoenix
Well, you
in the
say
center.
Talk to the athletic
Red
directors.
Phoenix.
Which one did they go? I like the black one.
Hang on, just so we don't jump around, we'll let Mrs. Smith finish, and then we'll move on to Mr. Ritchie, just so we don't miss anybody.
Well, I lost them. I'm only able to pull them up one at a time.
I'll pass this around too, so I did a quick PowerPoint of, if you did
Okay,
red.
good. That looks good.
We're just trying to come up
That
with
looks
some
great.
So that's the one we recommend to you, the one that's really coming up.
I'm very pleased at that.
You have a lot of red in the gym, and we'll go over some of why we chose certain colors for certain parts.
And the academy colors, I'm pleased with too.
Yeah.
There's
The
6
I see
academy
this. I like
colors.
this better than the black.
And the colors above, I can't pull mine up fast enough to talk. It takes time, but the only one that, I questioned was that institutional green there. If we could have more modern green, I mean, they have so many different hues of green. I know we looked at Mr. Edwards' shirt when he came in.
Have a patent on that color, I'm sorry.
And I love that green. But that reminds me of the old hospitals that we used to always have that color. And,
These colors here are the wayfinding colors, so we're proposing them for, as you're walking through the main hallways, going to the academic hallways. It would be in the alcoves going to, should be like 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, or English, social studies, science would pick a particular color for their hallway.
Now-
These are accent colors, so these were the ones we're proposing.
Okay.
We're trying to stay away from the CTE colors,
yes.
because we didn't want to get them confused.
Now, how much of the wall, I can't picture it really, would maybe that kind of green cover?
So, again, this is small, I had it on the PowerPoint too. Going along an academic
Corridor.
hallway corridor, we would have, so that would be an alcove going off the main hallway. and it would be whichever color is associated with that grade or subject. And then as you go into the hallway, there's an elevation of that hallway. So that color would be around the classroom doors.
Basically, wayfinding color.
So that kids know, okay, I'm going to social studies,
Okay.
it's coral, or it's blue. So it's wayfinding, so you can figure out where you're at. It's a big school.
So since it's wayfinding and, you have, I guess it wouldn't matter that much, as much.
So you're going to have a long hallway, and you'll have it just over the doors.
Yes.
For the classrooms.
Well, I don't think it would matter that much then.
And then in the alcoves to each hallway.
And you might also point out.
Yeah, that-
Restrooms have their own unique color.
Right, and so when we met with the principals,
Mhm.
2 weeks ago, and they liked everything. The green was questionable to them, to the principals as well, so I will point that out. He did jump on board when we said we could put it way away from him.
Those teachers are safe for,
He
Observation.
The other principal did like it, but, so they said for the toilets, for the boys and girls toilets on each of the hallways, to do a different color. So on every hallway there's blue.
Okay.
And I have that color blue on another board. So
Okay.
we have that as an accent color in other parts of the school as well. And so that kids know, okay, looking for the blue, there's the bathroom.
I'm fine with it since you said the wayfinding colors. That
it's
sort of
gonna be a lot-
explains everything.
Most of the hallways would be like over white, is what Brian wants to tell us. Door frames would be a light gray. And then every so often we'd break up the hallways, so you don't have just one long off-white hallway. It's some gray.
That
Thank-
explains it. I'm satisfied
All right,
then.
thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Ritchie?
I don't have
Mrs. Bailey?
well, let's just start with the auditorium. I'm not happy with the blue upholstery on the seats. I just feel like we could use gray or charcoal or something that would go with our school colors more. And then, so that same blue is in the carpet in the auditorium, which, again, I mean, from a distance, it looks more tan and gray from a distance, but
And here's
if
a
it,
larger piece of it.
if it looks like that, yes, and that looks like more blue to me, or even, I don't know, it just seems like to me we would want to do something that's more grayish, tannish, blackish. Yeah, I know you don't want to go with a solid color, that's obvious, but I don't get the blue. And especially if we're going to have a red curtain on the stage. So if we're going to go with a black curtain,
Please.
then a completely different carpet choice, but that's my deal for the auditorium. I don't get the blue at all. And then on the terrazzo floor, I love the gray, I love the cream, and I love that charcoal, that black color. Again, here we go with the blue. I don't get the insertion of the blue, and it's not a lot of blue, and I get that. And if our school colors were blue, I think it would be a great accent. But if we had wanted blue, we would have chosen blue for school colors, but we didn't. We chose red and black and white. So that's my opinion on the blue. And then the blue desk chairs. That one. It looked like from here, of course, my vision's not great, but from here it looks almost like navy blue. But when you get up close to it, it's more of like a royal blue. And again, cream or gray or, like a light black or something, but it's just the blue. I saw way more blue than I expected to see. And that's just my personal opinion.
And before we move forward, just let me point out that when we were talking with Mr. Nichols, hold on, wait a minute. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's,
And speaking with the gentleman from Varsity, or not Varsity, wherever he was from.
Herb Jones.
Yes, Herb Jones, I'm sorry. That we worked with them to do our school colors. They cautioned us about using green or blue, because the predominant color at Bluestone was blue, and the predominant color at Parkview was green. And I guess, and it made sense what he said, because, you know, you're gonna, and you can't, I know you can't make everybody happy, but they'll say, oh, well, why have you got all this blue, well, we don't have any green? Or why have you got all this green and we don't have any blue? And believe me, there's been a huge division in this county for as long as I've been living. So, you know, again, that was one thing that they cautioned us on. Right. That's one thing that they did caution us on. So I just wanted to throw that out there with what Mrs. Bailey.
Well, if I could just clarify my comments, it doesn't have, to me, it doesn't have anything to do with Bluestone. And it doesn't have anything to do with Parkview. I just didn't expect to see blue. I thought I would see more red and black and gray. And, I mean, it's a great blue. I mean, I love blue, but I just didn't expect it. And, that's just, and I would prefer not to see so much of it. Because it's just not it's not what we chose. So, anyway, that's all I have to say about it.
I can explain a little bit about how we went about choosing these colors.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to give you a little background. So, blues and greens for certain parts of the school psychologically are better for students. And I'm sure a lot of you already know that. Red is an exciting, it spurs action, it stimulates appetite. It also is a hard color for kids with anxiety. So you don't want that in a classroom. You don't want that in your hallway as predominant colors. So we did introduce the red more into the dining areas and into the gyms. Also, black, you want to use minimally too. It's very depressive. It brings on sadness. There's certain reasons for using certain colors. Especially in a school. In your academic areas, we're proposing more of these blues and greens. Not exactly, we try to stay away from the exact colors of your schools that you have now, a little different shades of those colors. But blue is a very calming color.
Excuse me.
And also, the reason we chose this blue for the hallways is it helps with circulation, and blue helps with direction and focus. So kids walking down a long hallway, blue calms them down, and then they actually pay attention a little bit more. So that's some of the background to some of the colors. Also,
We're not trying to completely change, we're just telling you where it came from, and we're gonna do exactly what you guys asked us to do.
but research shows that blue is a friendly, welcoming color. It brings calmness, lowers blood pressure, helps focus attention, order and direction, and creates a sense of well-being. So when you're talking about equity across students, blues, greens, those types of calming colors are good choices. Green promotes concentration, and we do have a green proposed for the teaching walls in the classrooms because it does help with concentration and focus. It's also a stress reliever, and then red, we know, stimulates appetite. So when you go to McDonald's and Hardee's and places you see orange, bright orange, red, yellow, it's fast food usually. So they want you to eat and get out. So that's why they use red. And like I said, for kids who are anxious, it's not the best color to have around when they're trying to learn or study. So that's just a little bit of the background and some of the colors. And also, I had a big picture of this, but when we first started the project, I went to your website, and it's like all the pictures that came up, I was like, man, that's a beautiful county. Blues, greens, very natural nature colors. So we thought that could be a good backdrop for the academic parts of the building. And then getting into dining and gym, start bringing in the reds. Now, the auditorium is up for question. I have options to show you guys for the auditorium.
Okay.
But that's kind of the background as to where we came up with the blues, the greens, and some of those common colors.
Thank you.
Now,
But,
having said that, we are prepared to go in any direction.
well, we're going to hear from the rest of the board members real quick, and then we'll discuss the other options. Ms. Garner.
That particular green, it's a yellow green. I prefer it to be more of a bluish green, such as his shirt or the one that Mr. Campbell has on, one of those. And it can be a little lighter. I just don't think the yellow green fits with what you got there. So that's fine. That's the only thing I see wrong.
Mr. Edwards.
I had heard her reasoning for picking these colors because I built Rivermont School in Chase City, which is a school for autistic kids and special needs kids. And so when we had to do the colors in there, they had to explain to me why I had to use different colors in different parts of that building. So the psychology behind why works for those kids, because I've been in there since then to repair things for them. And if some of these kids go crazy, and if it's some nutty colors in a room, and some of the teachers didn't realize what they'd done, they hung up some draperies and things in the room that didn't match the colors, and it just set them off. So, I mean, I'm happy with whatever you picked out because it has reasoning to go behind the colors, so.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Palmer?
I concur. I would just like to know what did the coaches say about the gym? Not the coaches, but the ADs in particular.
We haven't had a chance to meet with them yet, so we still need.
Okay. But as far as the color is concerned, I agree with what I've heard on both sides regarding the softness of the green. I think the green could be eliminated or changed. And I agree also that colors, having been in the classroom for too many years and in the office, colors can either make your school or it can tear your school down. It can make it either be when every student walk in the hallway, they're trying to find something to pick a fight or argument or so, to the point of shaking hands and trying to get down the hallway without causing problems.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Rob? Mr. Campbell?
That green is only gonna be in one alcove
In one hallway.
and one hallway. And how many square feet are we building? 350-some thousand square feet, and that green's gonna be on about 500 of it.
This one right here, teaching law now,
It's a different green.
That's a different green. I like that green. It's just the yellow green I don't like.
Yeah, but, I mean, I understand that everybody's got an opinion.
Everybody's entitled to right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
You're already ahead of that class anyway. You already moved on up. You're not in that class
Yeah.
anymore.
I know what Rob is saying
I
too.
know.
I understand what he's saying. So,
I understand all the psychology about the colors, and the green doesn't bother me. But, I mean, some of the colors like the blue seats and the blue upholstery in the auditorium, was part of that it's not gonna show dirt as much, and it's not gonna, show the wear and tear of a lighter color.
Definitely want to go with a darker color for the auditorium seating. And like I said, we did come with some alternatives to the blue, some different other colors after our meeting last week. But the blue we did choose, we were carrying in that theme from the terrazzo, a light blue, and then the dark blue does hide a lot. We use this fabric in almost every school that we've done on Ferguson.
So we're not only talking about the psychology, but we're talking about maintenance.
Maintenance as well.
And reupholstering seats when they get so nasty we can't clean them. And I mean, you can say all you want to, you can't bring food or drinks in there, but somebody's gonna bring it in there.
And duct tape comes in that color, blue color, so we'll be able to fix his seats
Yeah.
after the.
I mean, the green,
We'll all be dead.
for what little bit it's gonna be in there, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Like you said, it's one alcove and above the doors in one hallway. I trust y'all's judgment. I just leave it at that.
They'll repaint it in 5 years.
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Diane? Okay, let's talk about the auditorium real quick first. We'll talk about the auditorium first. And I guess in my profession, I don't have a degree or anything in it, but, I've worked with color palettes and stuff my whole life, at least for the last 24 years. And, I know that, just trying to make things commingle and, so they'll flow and aesthetically, be pleasing. And I do, and I understand the logic behind the mental aspect of it as well, and psychological aspects and all. But I will say, I do concur with Mrs. Bailey. I'm not really happy with the blue in the auditorium. And just in thinking about this project, And when we chose the red, white, and the black as our primary colors, but, it's just like me looking at a paint chart. And, we go from the lightest to the darkest, and, when those pleasing pieces and all through there. So I guess, and again, I concur that I do like the charcoal gray, the creams, and this over here. But again, looking at the charts, and it doesn't have anything to do with one or the other, but I did notice a lot of blue. And I will also say, going back to the auditorium, I am a horrible fan of red curtains. Just when you walk in a room and just that bright red, to me, black is a little bit more soothing or calming for a setting like that. And, this is something that Mr. Nichols and I have talked about. In Greensville County, they use their auditorium that they built there, and I'm hoping we will be able to do the same. They're performing arts. They have big names come in there every year. I mean, I think it's about 1,000 or 1,100 seater auditorium. And, I'm looking forward to being able to do things like that to bring people in like that. So I will say I'm not a big fan of the red in the curtains. The coral color as well. I don't understand the coral. Yes, ma'am. I just don't understand the coral. I don't understand the UNC blue that's right below it. And I don't understand the turquoise in that color chart. But the rest, again, I'm not a fan of I'm just being honest, I'm just not a fan of the blue chair. I'm not a fan of the dark desk. If I were a student and I suffer from ADHD, I take medicine for it today. And I just don't know if I could look at that all day, a dark desk like that.
The desk is not dark, the desk actually is maple.
Oh, it's the maple, I'm sorry.
So the desk is maple
And
with
the-
a metal,
Okay, I see it now. I'm sorry, the microphone was in the way.
right, so the desk is actually like natural maple.
Yes, ma'am. And then the chair is that color, right?
Chairs, student chairs would be blue, and then teacher chairs are gray.
So is it that blue that's on that chart? Is the chair?
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Let's see, that looks dark.
okay, all right.
And I will add that these particular colors are the most manufactured, so if you need more,
Right.
get them quicker.
Right, yes, ma'am.
That was one thing too.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
A lot of that played into the package.
Okay, all right. Other than that, I mean, again, I understand the CTE colors because, again, that's on our wheel, of our career centers. I totally understand that, but that was my comments, that's my opinion. Again, that's why so many of us on here, all of us are entitled to one. So, I mean, like Mr. Upton said, it's going to be humanly impossible to get everybody to agree on one thing, but I just had a question about those. So, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Garner has another
Yeah.
question.
Do you have a showing or sample that we could see of the curtain that he's talking about?
So it is, on this
understand
one
what
here,
you're
and it
talking
is a red, and I started bringing in the red color, just trying to find the perfect spots, and honestly, it's a great color. But I can relate to what you're saying, and I mean,
And
this comes in so many colors, you can get blue, you can green, you can get purple, you can black. The back curtain is black. So, but the main curtain.
You're talking about the wings.
Yeah, so the main,
Okay.
it's like a velvet
Okay.
curtain.
And to me, again, it's just my opinion, to me, that just doesn't blend. But, that's just me. So, yes, ma'am.
Diane, show him what the acoustic panels, what color the acoustic panels will be.
So on the walls, acoustic panels,
Okay.
use colors.
And again, I understand the gray. So are you, the acoustic of the sound panels and the curtain's going to be, you're saying are the same color?
We have acoustic panels throughout the.
Yes, ma'am, the whole auditorium, yes,
Right,
ma'am.
and they're in a pattern, so it'll be more of the lighter color,
Okay,
and then just fewer of the accent color.
okay.
And then the walls are proposing a little bit richer color for the walls.
And I would assume that the ceiling will be open pretty much. We'll see what am I trying to say?
For clouds.
Yes, sir.
Color.
Oh, so thank you,
And it's
yes.
very light. And
Okay.
we have woodwork, which would be proposing white wood.
Okay.
Woodwork. And we have bulkheads.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would be
Yes.
white. And then up above, the clouds, we want that to kind of fade away.
Okay,
Because that's where your house and your mechanical equipment and other equipment, so you don't want to see that so much.
okay,
But we did, I would show you the two other selections. we
Yes,
want,
ma'am, that would be great.
For the carpet, so I went back after our meeting last week, and I was looking for more neutral, but still has some warm tones to it, and has some of the gray. And I apologize, I cut it just a little bit small.
Well, that's okay. Well, that's a good piece.
And then, all three of us looked at the fabrics.
Mhm.
And this was one combination. So that does have some richness to the fabric.
That's the
Not-
maroon, but, the one on
That's like
the
a
top,
red-
right, uh-huh.
Right,
Mhm,
so it has a
mhm.
red and has some tan in it. This is one that we thought we'd bring. to show
And then
you
you've
guys.
got the carpet next to it.
Yeah, and that's the
That's
same
on the
carpet
floor.
as this one right there.
Mhm, mhm.
And what color would the seats be on that one?
We do this color. So then you're bringing in some red.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Then we went with a gray also, to show you a lighter color, without getting too light to the maintenance.
And walk around so I can see you up close, because you really can't get those without being close to them.
That
A little
gray,
more neutral.
Mhm.
gray shows everything.
Mhm.
The curtain is gonna be what?
Yeah, it's be dirty in the
Okay,
morning.
so this is the chairs, and
The
that's.
floor.
Floor.
All right, what's the curtain?
She's still
The
got red.
curtain, we could do red, there's plenty of other colors.
Okay. I don't like the bright red. I don't like that red.
Yeah, a question, if you don't like the red color.
Yes, sir.
Would you feel better if it was more dark burgundy or something like that? Just-
I guess I'm gonna be really, this is really bad, but I don't know, I go to so many auditoriums that are just so cold that have the red, and I mean, again, I've never been a big fan of it, because it looks like it's used all the time everywhere. And again, I was just thinking about our school colors, the red, the black, and the white. And again, I'm just thinking long-term with the Performing Arts Council, hopefully we're gonna get that started back again. And, I just wished it would be something a little bit more, soothing to the eye.
Is there a
There's
color?
three colors to choose from. I mean, there are plenty of other colors, so we can look at that too.
Anybody else have any other questions or
I'll
comments?
make one comment.
Yes, sir.
Well, we have 9 different opinions tonight.
That's true, yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
have about 14. But, the easiest way out of this is to let a professional go ahead and put it all together. And then the 50% of the people that don't like it, we can say, well, we didn't pick it anyway. And the 50% of the people that do like it, we can say, yeah, we saw that. And so that way, we can blame them for everything if people don't like it. No, I think they're all good myself, and I think once we get it all in place, it's not gonna make any difference except to 9 people, and anybody that walks in there is gonna go, boy, this is beautiful, regardless of which one of these you put in there. It's so new. We hadn't had anything new in Mecklenburg County in so long that it's gonna be new, and everybody's gonna like it regardless. So, just my comment.
What color is
Mr.
the barn?
Huh?
Honeycutt?
What color is the
Yes,
barn?
ma'am.
The barn is
Ms.
gonna be
Bailey.
red.
Ms. Bailey.
Diane,
barn's
thank
gonna
you
be
for giving us
barn's
something
gonna
else
be
to look
red.
at. And is it your professional opinion that these would work just as well?
In an auditorium, like, I think any of these would work. And I will add the red curtain, and I have to honestly say this, it's supposed to be like the most regal color for auditoriums, maybe that's why it's used so much. So that was one thing I wanted to tell you how it's going to be. The curtain, we've used blue, we've used green, we've used all different colors, so the curtain for me.
See, to me, excuse me,
Now, go ahead.
I mean, that would be a school color. I mean, I don't have a problem with a red curtain, because that's about all the red we're gonna see in there, from what I'm looking at, other than the sound, the acoustic panels. So, I mean, but I just wanted to make sure, Diane, that these 2 options are reasonable in your mind.
I definitely think so, and the 3 of us met about these, and this is where we.
Thank you.
No, one question.
Mr. Campbell?
with, were these looked at when you picked out your first choice?
We picked out the first choice, we were going along with the flow of the rest of the school. And so we used some of the similar colors going into the auditorium.
So that would still be your first choice?
Don't be scared, step
Don't we- I mean-
out. Step out there, there's nothing to be scared of here.
I mean, how long have you done your job?
29 years.
Okay, so is that still your first choice?
Personally, and also looking at other projects we've done, this would be the preference.
All right.
You guys are at a little bit of a disadvantage, I think, because it is difficult looking at little swatches of color.
It is.
To really get the feel for how things are gonna look. Now, we see this kind of stuff all the time. And some things we look at in the office, even internally, we kind of question with each other. But once it's done, we like it, and we think it looks really good, and we're satisfied that it works. Now, sometimes we run into a color, once it's installed, and we'll say to ourselves, it looks good on a swatch, but I don't think we're gonna do that. We don't really have anything here that we've run into like that before. And again, you know, these colors right here, like Diane was saying, you know, you're gonna see it at the beginning of the hallway. And then you're gonna have little accent pieces. We're gonna change that color. Right, but I'm just saying, that's what I'm trying to point out, even though we can look at one of these colors or all of them and change them, it's really a different look when you see it on the walls down the hallway.
But there is a need to have that many different colors in order because of the numbers of halls that we have.
That's right.
Right.
And also, we didn't want to get too close to the CTE colors, so we were steering away from those.
And those were a no-brainer, right?
We're gonna reevaluate these three colors, we start to put X's on them. So the green, the coral, and the light blue, we'll go back and see what other variations of those colors.
Ms. Bailey?
The meeting that Lindell and I were at last week, Brian Dalton was there, and I asked the question of him, from a maintenance standpoint, when things have to be repainted, was having so many little panels of this color and little panels of that color, was it gonna be difficult and more labor intensive to repaint when that time came? And his comment to me was, Ms. Bailey, we're using a really durable paint, and these walls won't have to be painted for, he said, I'll be long gone when these walls have to be painted again, was his comment. So he didn't really answer my question. It was just that he wouldn't have to worry about it when the time came. So, but that, I think that is something to consider, but that was Brian's opinion. So I wanted to make sure the whole board had heard that.
Mr. Campbell?
I'm just curious why you put X's on those three.
Because there seemed to be a consensus that those needed to be adjusted. So I thought we could adjust those and still end up with color that would satisfy all the things that we're concerned about, and still show that we are willing to work and compromise and listen to that client.
I mean, I think the only color that's really been a consensus is the green. I mean, I'm just saying.
That's my favorite shade of green.
Sir?
That's my favorite shade.
And I mean, you're
I like it
you're
too.
marking them off
I
because
love it.
one or
I'm
two
gonna set
people said
myself on
something.
fire if we get rid of that green.
Nine of us.
I like myself on fire right now.
You see what I'm saying?
And again, you know, we do have 9 board members, and everybody on this board is entitled to their own opinion, and I'm not going to attack anybody for their opinion. And again, we've listened to all 8 people here tonight, and, you know, if
I
it's,
think it looks good.
right, I mean, again, you know, we brought you here. The board members wanted to have a chance to be able to say or speak out their opinion, and that's what we've done, and I believe it's been constructive. Yes, sir.
What is the vote going to be? I don't know if we need to clarify that now. Are we voting to go with their recommendation? Are we voting on, how does the vote go?
I mean, we're actually voting on what they brought. However, if they're willing to look at the green, so, again, that was the consensus of most. The floor coloring in the gym, we heard some, I mean, not in the gym, but in the auditorium, we heard some things about, or do we just vote?
I mean, that's what I'm asking. That's
Right.
what I need clarification on is,
The board has the option to be able to make adjustments in the recommendation of what to vote on. It doesn't help you any, I know.
and
because
I mean, that's what I'm
I mean,
asking
you
is.
could, the person that's putting out the nomination for vote could say, I vote that we accept these colors, except we don't want to have that green. Or they can say, I want to accept
Right,
these colors,
right.
except I would rather have this for the other. And once it's out there, then the rest of the board has to either go up or down the first nomination.
Ms. Garner?
I'm going with, she's the professional. I would look at it, these are colors that they have worked with, they have put in other schools, they have the reasoning, they have backup studies to show this will work. I'd say go with what we got, even the green that I don't like.
Amen.
No, so that's,
Could I-
Yes, sir, Mr. Palmer?
My only concern is, again, some of the colors, your lighter colors, I can see the students now. And when you go down that hall, even though Brian may have said that it's gonna be when he leaves, it's still going to be, unless you're very careful, you're gonna see that handprint or problems with those colors, those lighter colors.
One of the things that we have selected that really helps deter fingerprints and things like that, and Mr. Edwards, you can attest to this, this is a high-grade epoxy paint.
Oh, yeah.
You won't have a lot of.
So it's not a
dirt, smudges
flat.
and things like that, it's a gloss.
Okay.
And even if something gets on it, that's not really a stain, it can be cleaned off relatively easy.
And
In
there's a
fact,
metal-
we just paid about $100,000 to paint all these hallways here and at Parkview High School with the same paint. So, we've got epoxies, in now in our hallways that we repainted with, and for that reason, I think that's what Brian Dalton picked out was the epoxy finishes. So it's durable, it'll be a long time, you can wash them.
The new school's gonna have metal grating underneath, so if they touch the walls, it's gonna shock them.
Again, thank you. Again, this is, all of us, before they do something, all of us sitting here tonight are going to be dead and gone when this happens again, or if it happens again. So it's just a reality. So, again, I hope you don't have the impression that anybody was questioning what you did. We were just offering opinions. I just don't want you to have that. So,
Personally, I like purple. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Change your mind.
okay.
No,
So,
I love
what
that
I-
you're passionate about this.
Right, so, and again, I am passionate about it. I am passionate in everything that I do. So I believe I have a consensus from the board that we will vote on what you have brought forward, and then we will move on. Okay? Thank you. Anybody have any other questions before we move on?
I think you did a great job.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Nichols, thank you.
Item B is the Joint Education Committee meeting. It was, Ms. Giammattio was there as recording secretary. She put together the report on it, and I think you all have a chance to see that. It was an interesting meeting. We had a good tour of the school. The school is coming along very well. We give monthly updates, and if anybody has any questions about the meeting itself, I'll be happy to entertain them.
Anybody have any questions about the meeting that took place? Hearing none?
All right, item C. As of July 25th, the governor is no longer making any mandates on what we do as far as protecting our students from COVID in school. Just in time, the COVID numbers are going up. There are recommendations that have been made and from the Department of Education and the CDC and Department of Health. And basically, I have given each of you a copy of those recommendations for interim guidance for schools. There's 15 pages in here of how you go about making a determination on those items. We will need to make some selections and make some decisions at the August board meeting. I'm giving this to you tonight so that you'll have some information to go by as we make these selections. Every different school division, I think, is going to make different selections of what they're going to be doing, depending on where they are. The basic guidance that you will find in here is that elementary students cannot be vaccinated, anybody younger than 12 years old, and so they're recommending that everybody in elementary school wear masks. Everybody on school buses has to wear masks. That's still a state law. And they are strongly suggesting that everybody in the secondary schools wear masks as well, because we will not be paying as much attention, we cannot be paying as much attention to the social distancing issues. And the reality is, we have no way of knowing how many students have been vaccinated from 12 to 18. Now, I have checked with, it was recommended, and I have checked with our attorney about asking students to verify if they have been vaccinated or not. It is permissible for us to do that, as long as we ask them to show that, and that information be put in their permanent record as all other vaccination information is put in their permanent record. So there is an option that many schools are looking at that's saying, if you've been vaccinated and we have determined that, then you can come and not wear masks.
So this is going to be a county decision. So this isn't a law that we have to wear masks,
No.
except for on a school bus.
That's correct.
Okay. So this is for information, and we'll vote on this
This is an
next month.
information item, because I want you to have all the information you can get and talk to people that you want to talk to, and then come back and make a decision on it. I will have to say, as I talked with our attorney, he just reminded us that if any school division that goes against recommendations of the Department of Health and Department of Education, if something happens, there is the open opportunity for lawsuits.
But again, they're not mandating that we do it.
No,
Okay.
they are not mandated.
But this all could change by our August meeting.
It could. I mean, who knows? With the numbers are going up, right now, we are in the orange in Mecklenburg County.
We'll have to adjust during the school year, I'm sure. I mean, it can change all year long.
Yeah, it can change all year long. That's
Just be
exactly right.
prepared to-
So it's a tough decision for every board to have to make, but the boards have to make it. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
I feel like we've trashed one school year already. We should do our best to have a good one coming up.
Exactly, amen.
I will also point out, though, that the Department of Education is still very focused, as we are, in having all students come back for full face-to-face learning, except those whose parents are determined that they're going to be virtual learning, giving the parents that choice. So,
But if we hadn't have offered virtual learning, they would have had to have done it on their own,
or be homeschooled.
or be homeschooled, correct? Okay.
As the year go on, can we change?
Yes, sir.
Because if it continues to go up, the number, excuse me for hoarseness, if it continues to go up, we may say, to start off with, yes, we'll let them, but then if it continues to go up, we may change our mind.
Well, you will see in this document that there are low transmission rates, moderate transmission rates, substantial transmission rates, high transmission rates, and they're actually recommending that you look at those things and make, decisions about changing along the way.
That's what I think.
You're exactly right. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
All right,
Any
yes, sir.
questions about that?
Any other questions? So again, this is for your information. I would encourage you, if you have any questions, to reach out to Mr. Nichols, and then we will vote on this and have maybe a little bit more discussion on it next month.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Moving on.
Item D, at last week's regular July meeting, I brought to you a request for support for partnership with the K-12 program. Mr. Peter Stewart was with us at that point. He had some others. He's come again tonight because he knew there were some questions that were pertinent. And again, we're not trying to, there is a pressure because there have to be some notifications for parents to be able to make choices and so forth. I would like to open the floor with Mr. Stewart to be able to come up and ask some questions that you all might have. And in the process, we'll see if there were misunderstandings along the way that can be clarified. So, Mr. Stewart?
Great, thank you.
Go with
I'm
it.
glad to be back. I know you had a week to look at the document, to ask questions amongst yourselves, with Mr. Nichols and others. So I'm here tonight to see if you have any other questions. The only changes that were made since I was here last was that in the term for notification, Mr. Evans, you had asked that it be shortened to 90 days, and it was. And we also put in a section in there, I think it's 7.4, about resident students. You already have I think it's 38 students who are set up to attend the Virtual Virginia program. The question was raised, well, what if we have more families who want to have a virtual option? And in light of the most recent conversation, you might. What we did in 7.4 is we put 25 free positions for Mecklenburg County students. So if you had 25 students who wanted to do that, you would have that, and then you would have the same pricing that we gave in Region 7 to districts like Radford, Giles, Wise, Bland, Bristol, and Washington. So you would be in with that kind of grouping with the pricing there, which is, again, I think below what Virtual Virginia does. Those were the only changes that were made. I did send a list of our major investors. You would ask the question, Mr. Edwards, and
I didn't see it yet.
they're all, it's Vanguard. So it's
Okay.
4 different Vanguard groups. It's a publicly traded company, so they're the number one investor in the company.
Right. What is
Well-
that fee? Excuse me.
I'm sorry, so
Chairman.
I'm gonna start with Mr. Edwards.
Okay.
Questions?
What is that fee for District 7? Up in, like you said, there's going to be a different fee for us.
Sure. So for resident students, if you were to send them to us, which includes the teachers, so we would have teachers that you wouldn't have to employ.
Right.
I think it's $2,850 for K through 5, and then $3,000 above that for 6 through 12 for the whole year.
3,000.
So less than the state funding you receive for that student.
Right. Now, state funding is what, about $6,000?
$6,723.
$6,800. And if I may, I just want to make a few statements, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I was probably the most vocal at the last meeting about this, and probably asked some questions, and maybe a lot of them didn't make sense. But one of my questions was how we would derive income from it, and now, after researching, I understand that outside of our realm of Mecklenburg County, we'll have a group of students that'll be coming in, and we would retain a portion of their ADM money, so that could be built up over time to bring income into the county. And, you just have to sit down and look at this whole situation. I think now that it's going to be, especially with this pandemic turning on us, that it's a great opportunity for our students to have an option and not tax our internal teachers to have to go back to virtual learning because it didn't work very well for us last year, and this gives us a new opportunity. And another thing that we just covered, the vaccinations and the mask, I've had numerous parents come to me that told me that their child's not going to be vaccinated and they're not going to wear a mask. So if that happens, then they're going to ask for something. And if they do, this opportunity is a lot less expensive than putting all of our children into our schools and trying to do virtual and in class. So, and then the 90-day notice was something that I really was worried about. And we're really, if you look at it with a 90-day notice, even though the contract renews every year, I mean, this is going to give us an opportunity to watch this very closely and monitor the children that are going to be, if any of them decide to go this way, and also compare that to the Virtual Virginia plan, and we'll be able to make an intelligent decision later. Right now, there's a lot of people already involved in it, but I just, at this point, changed my total opinion of this opportunity, and so I'm for it.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Anybody else? Have any, Ms. Bailey?
Yes, Mr. Honeycutt, at the last meeting, Mr. Stewart, I asked a question about if we were to use one of your teachers to teach a section for our students here. And I asked how, since they would not be full-time K-12 students, they would be part-time, what does that formula look like in terms of what we would owe you for each student?
I think it sort of depends on the model that you wanted. If you wanted it to be, like, we've worked with some schools where they wanted to have a foreign language program done synchronously. So we had a Spanish teacher who was basically, zoomed into a classroom. And there you're basically paying for the teacher's time. And we've had other classes where other programs where they've said, we actually want to have this to be an online course, so the students can move at their own pace and they can work with the teacher. Our courses are about $200 per student with a teacher per semester. That does not include materials. We ship in materials for younger students, but if you're thinking about older students.
So is that for a synchronous opportunity?
That's for a synchronous opportunity.
$200 per student?
Yes, per semester.
Per semester.
Yeah.
And you did mention that there were about 2,000 families that are waiting for an opportunity to learn with you.
Yes.
And that Mecklenburg is slotted for 2,300 of those types of students.
Correct.
But that doesn't put any cap on how many of our students might sign up with you.
That's correct.
Okay. And I will probably think of the other question that I had. I don't have it written down, so if you want to go to someone else.
Real quick, I just, and this is a discussion that Mr. Nichols and I had, I want to put aside the myth that there is public perception that this county was mandated to offer, what am I trying to say? Virtual learning. Senate Bill 1303 says that all we had to do was educate our children K through 12. So it is nothing that is mandated by the state that says that we have to offer virtual to any student in our division. So, I mean, again, people have said that. They've said that to me in the community. That is not the truth. So if you have heard that, that is very far from the truth. I was excited when you all came. And again, I could tell the passion in the lady's eyes. I think maybe I jumped a little bit too quick, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
To me, it's an equity issue. You said that, irregardless if somebody wants to attend your virtual academy, they still have criteria that they have to meet in order to enroll in your virtual academy.
You would set the criteria if you wanted any.
Correct.
Yeah.
But not all, and I want to set, put aside the myth that it's available to all of our students, because that's not true. They would have to meet certain criteria, whatever we set forth, to be able to attend your program.
For our students in Mecklenburg.
For our students, yes, in Mecklenburg County. Again, it's not equitable to it wouldn't be available to every student. So, people have said since the last meeting, y'all going to offer, something else for your students. And I said, well, there will be criteria that you have to meet in order to attend this academy. So for me, and the reason why I've backed off some,
Sure.
because it is an equitable issue for me.
If I can ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So if there are admission policies to the program, they would be set by you, the board.
Correct.
Not by we, the vendor. And then for students who are outside the district, I think one of the things that I think people find surprising is that in both African-American students and Latino students, there are higher percentages of those students in this statewide school than there are in the state. I know that in the last 30 days, 60 days, the percentage of Latino students applying has almost doubled.
Right.
This is just talking to our marketing folks. And so if that's the issue at equity, we're finding that more and more families, minority families, are saying this is the right fit for my child right now. And we do provide computers and internet access to all students, so that it's not an economic issue either. It may not be the right fit for a family. There's plenty of families that this is not the right fit
Right.
for.
Well,
But we really do work hard at that equity issue.
Right. But again, even if you're a minority, you still have to meet a certain criteria in order to attend this academy. Just because, you're certain, you still have to meet a certain criteria that this board will set forth in order to attend.
But you as a board could decide there is no criteria.
Right, because we had 38 students, I think.
What we did was, we looked at the number of students that we have had fully virtual last year by their parents' choice,
Correct.
and we looked at the numbers that were having success. Now, it's different for every child.
Correct.
Maybe I wasn't successful because I didn't have anybody at home to make sure I did the work that I needed to do. Maybe I wasn't successful because I didn't have very good internet access through the devices that were made available. You know, there are a number of different reasons. And what we said from administration, and I discussed with you all, is I was of the opinion, from information that we were getting from lawyers and whatnot, that parents were going to have the option of having a virtual school, but we had to have face-to-face. And you found out that that's actually not the case, that many schools are choosing to just say, you come face-to-face, or you go homeschool, and you're not going to be a part of our enrollment. And I think that's one of the reasons that you're getting the benefit, because there are numbers of students, and you've mentioned Latino and African-American students, whose parents were going, I want my children virtual. I think it's a health issue. That's one issue, that's many others. And so they're saying, I've got another option. I can go with K-12. And I don't have to pay for it, because K-12 has been able to create these partnerships with Mecklenburg County and Radford and others, and they're getting ADM, so my child becomes technically a part of the Mecklenburg system, and we're getting great resources to be able to do that. Now, for our students, we're still saying, we want you to be face-to-face. If you weren't successful before, we don't have any reason to think that you'll be successful next year. So we want you to be face-to-face. Now, we've got 36 students who qualified by our guidelines, which included, do you have a device? Were you successful with your grades? And do you actually pass assessment items that we've put forth to show that your parents didn't do your work for you? Okay? That eliminated all but 36 who applied for it. Now, with the COVID situation, numbers growing. And I don't know what we'll decide to do as far as masks or whatnot, but I'm like Mr. Edwards. I can just see parents saying, if you're going to require masks, or if you're going to have children come who aren't vaccinated and not require masks, it can go both ways, then I'm going to either use a virtual option, or I'm going to become a homeschool student. And then we lose the ADM. And I think this is a way of protecting our ADM, it's protecting our students, it's being able to give them the most options available, and that's one of the reasons that I'm as excited about it as I am.
And I just know that for Mecklenburg, and I can only speak from our numbers, I would say 2% or less, or maybe 3% or less, were successful with virtual learning.
That's
I
why
mean,
that's why we had the standards.
Right, it didn't work for us. And again, because I think some people had the perception that we had to offer virtual learning, but that's not the case. I mean, we're in the business of educating children in person. That's our job. And getting back to Mrs. Bailey's point, and speaking with Virtual Virginia, I know that they've cut off the timeline or whatever, but if we still have students, say we have 10 students that want to take physics class, or we have 8 students that want to take a calculus class, they will still offer that teacher to teach that subject. However, I know we would have to have a parapro in the room. So when they say they've cut it off for full-time students that would be doing synchronous, because they're going to be doing synchronous learning. And I spoke with Virtual Virginia, and that is correct. That they will not, I mean, if we still have students that want to take calculus or students that want to take physics, they will offer that teacher, but you still have to have a sub in that room to do the classroom management part. In looking more into it and reading it again, I just had some concerns. And for me, it's an equity issue. We've talked about that strongly for the last few years. I want all of our children, all 3,900 or 4,000 or however many it is, to have the same opportunity. But I know that's not realistic where we live. So again, that's my issue with this. Yes, sir.
Where did that success rate come from? 2 or 3% of our students had success?
Well, this is based on what we
Virtual
had, the
education.
numbers that wanted to.
I mean, I don't know that I've put out a percentage ever, but.
Well, we talked about a number today or
I
yesterday.
mean, I would concur it's a very low percent.
Yeah, it's a
I
very
don't
low
have
percent.
We don't have
That
percent.
low?
Well, I mean, I really don't know. We have had, close to 400 students in summer school,
Right.
you know, but now that's 400 out of,
4,000.
you know, we got 3,800 students plus in our building, so that's a pretty significant number, but it's not.
Yeah, but that's more like a 90% success rate,
Yeah.
3% success rate. I don't know, I just was wondering if that.
Right.
And I guess I was basing it off of what we had or what we're going to be virtual doing this time.
Well, I also don't see, I mean, the virtual option, I think you did a good job in, because I believe, I'm with Gavin, and I believe the kids need to be in school. But I was very happy to see that like 1% of our students chose virtual. So I think that you did a good job, and that's a good option for them. Because we've had students learning at a distance in other ways all along, homebound students, anyway. You know, that's always been, but the fact that you were able to convince people to come back to school, and there's less, you know, really less than 1% of our students chose virtual, I think that's a success.
And I guess we can't go back and do it now, but, you know, as a board member, not as a chairman of the board, but as a board member, I wish we would have had an opportunity to vote on this issue, and that we would not have offered virtual at all, and that our students would have been, you know, to come back to school, because we know when children are in school, I mean, it's proven, it's successful. I mean, as bad as I did graduate, but, you know, I don't feel like our children get the same benefit sitting at home in front of a computer. That's my opinion.
Sure. I don't disagree with you, Mr. Honeycutt. I just know that there are some parents that would say, I'm not coming back.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I wonder how many of those, you know, really, if we put it out there, how many of those would really say that if they knew, especially if they were going to homeschool and had to financially be responsible themselves. I think it would be a very, very, very low number.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got, and I probably shouldn't say this in public. I'm just kidding.
Susan, turn your ears off.
No, but there are groups of people out there that are pretty smart on this virtual education, and if this pandemic comes back, we had one church in Clarksville especially, it took a group of 10 or 12 kids and had a hired retired teacher in the class with them that gave them direction. Now, when we do that, that becomes a success rate, because now you have, rather than the kid saying, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to the bathroom and play all day, you have structure. And a lot of these parents now are going to, if this pandemic comes back, we'll have an option that they at least can go this route. 8 or 10 kids can be in a classroom with a teacher, and that may work. I mean, because people are going to do some strange things when this disease comes back, and they're going to look out for their little one, and it's not going to be vaccinating a 4-year-old. You know,
And I totally agree, Mr. Edwards, but I would assume now, if the pandemic comes back in a rage, which I pray to God that does not happen, I don't want that, knock on wood, but we would be going to all virtual anyways. Our students would go back home, and we would shut those schools down again, and the teachers would have to pick up and do virtual again, correct? Or would they go all to the virtual academy?
No, they wouldn't all go to the virtual academy. We would make the adjustments to be able to, I mean, if we have a class that goes on quarantine now, we have prepared our teachers to know that you still have the tools accessible to be able to work with those students in a virtual environment until we can get back. But they're not going to have face-to-face students and virtual students at the same time. That's where the teachers get really anxious.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Bailey.
So I think we've established that there's always going to be a segment of our population that prefers homeschool, whether they do it through a public entity or whether they pay for it themselves. And I think if we can offer something like that for our students who prefer that, and get the ADM for it, I don't know why we wouldn't.
We can go after the homeschool students we have.
Number two, I do believe that Virtual Virginia does have a deadline for enrolling, even if you want to take a class, for example, an AP Physics or an AP Statistics class, there is a deadline to apply for that because they have to have their rolls cut off.
It's already passed.
It's already passed.
It was like April.
And I think I heard you say, or I heard Mr. Nichols say, that one of our criteria for virtual school was that they had a device?
Well, we asked that question to be sure. We can supply virtual.
But aren't we giving all of our students devices this year regardless of whether they're virtual or in person?
The computer, but we're not giving away to all of our students.
I'm talking about the laptop.
We're
That's what I
giving
mean
all
by
of-
device.
Yes, all of our students will have the device.
Okay.
They had them
So,
last year.
if our students are taking, if they, but let me get through my list of questions. Okay, Ms. Stewart, I don't think you're suggesting that any of our students would join your academy mid-semester.
All I would suggest to you is that, think of us as like an insurance policy. There are right now 2,000 students, not really any of them, who live right here in Mecklenburg, who want this option. And we can offer that to them with your assistance. If during the year, your resident students, you want to make a change of plans, you have Virtual Virginia and they have some capacity to take new students, that's great. You would also have us to try and help you figure out what do we have that can be helpful in this year of uncertainty.
So for our secondary students who are on a 4x4 block, you're not going to take a student in the middle of the semester, are you? Because our curriculum's.
No, typically we take
You-
students at the semester.
Okay. And just so I'm clear on this, is the K-12 Virtual Academy, is that synchronous or asynchronous?
Both.
Okay? And do you, say for the spring semester, what would be your deadline for enrolling for one of our students to come on board with K-12 Virtual
Typically, we
Academy?
would work with the school. It's usually decided in December, and the semester starts in January.
Okay. And just to go back to the device thing, Ms. Stewart, you realize that there are pockets in our community where even a hotspot does not work? Okay. That's all I had, Mr.
Anybody else?
I have
Mrs. Smith?
In response to what Ms. Bailey just asked, what is your situation? What do you offer? I know some students can only get, virtual. What, do you have something in place where if the students are enrolled in your academy, that they automatically, the devices work, that they automatically have their hotspots, or
Yes, we.
are their homes the hotspots, or how
We
does?
typically ask, especially students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, do they have access to a device? Do they want a device? Amazingly, many families do not want another device. They like the ones that they have. If they want one, we have those that are configured for our platform. And so the browser, everything works right away out of the box. And then if a student doesn't have internet access, the school works to go get that for them, and sometimes that requires satellite.
Well, good Lord, we'll be putting satellites from all over the county, because I'm telling you, I hope you, and again, I'm not, I appreciate what you're saying, but we have so many areas in this county that have zero internet access. We're still fighting it today. We would love to have some of that money from Fairfax and all those northern cities, northern parts of the state, that have that internet, but our students are at a horrible disadvantage with internet.
And we operate right now with about 7,000 students across the Commonwealth of Virginia, many of whom live in rural places like here. We have a partnership now with Region 6, which is a very rural place in southwestern Virginia, and so we are working through those issues. We get it.
But there's none of our students enrolled in K-12.
But he's saying we would have to put up, so who's gonna pay for the satellites?
That would be,
If they enroll in K, but right now, we have 0 students enrolled in K-12.
We still wouldn't be responsible for
Yeah, they pay for it.
we pay for it. That's,
So
You
you
pay
all,
for
y'all
the
pay to put up the
satellite.
satellites?
that comes out of our operating cost.
Yeah.
Right, so the teachers are our cost, the curriculum, the testing, everything is operational, that comes out of,
If we put
Our
a student
cost.
in there,
Right.
and right now, that's 0.
Yeah, we just voting on the opportunity right now, we don't even know if we'll have any that go. just opening the door.
It would be unlikely.
Yeah, right, we're just opening
be
the door,
unlikely for one of
and
our
if we
schools
open the
We're
door. and it-
always gonna be putting them through that, we don't think you're ready for virtual.
Right.
And so if you're gonna leave us, we'll have an option.
But if he has 2,000 ready, and we're gonna benefit off of the ADM.
Sure.
Did I answer your question, though?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
And I sort of changed my mind towards, because of this pandemic, and what I heard today about the Delta strands and the variants that will become apparent, and the more people that do not mask up, the more they allow more variants to appear that they have no control over, so this thing could really get out of hand. So for that reason, I would be for it.
I think I'm getting it now.
It's already started.
You can-
Because I can tell you, I'm in a rehab at the CARES building in South Hill, and I noticed when the nurses and all came in this week with the mask and the shield, I said, "What's up?"
It's required.
I
in medical.
suppose the Delta
Just
variant is making the difference, the Delta strand. They said, yes.
Well, we can look a little bit into the future by looking at Australia, New Zealand, and countries that it's winter right now. And
Right.
they're having a rough go of it right now.
And I just learned before I left home that fully vaccinated make up 40% of the new UK persons that are hospitalized. 40% is a large number.
So one other question. So I've, kind of scaled around in the state. So you're not up in the northern parts of the state.
That's right.
You're not in Chesterfield, Richmond City, Hopewell
No,
City.
we've been in Richmond City for the last 5 years as our partner.
So y'all have been in Richmond City?
Absolutely.
So which one of those that you point out that you said that you're a part of? What part of that is Richmond City?
So if we went back to, Richmond City this year has said that they're going to, we at the end of a contract, they don't want to renew.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Richmond City did not want to renew.
So they did not want to
Did
renew?
not want to renew.
And do you know why they didn't want to renew?
They're under an MOU with the state, but this is what Dr. Epps told us. Dr. Epps is the chief
Yes, sir.
academic officer.
Yes, sir.
That they're under a MOU with the state because of some low-performing schools, and the state wanted them to focus on those schools and not to have other programs.
And I wonder why they were low-performing schools. Was it because a lot of those students were enrolled in virtual, or?
This had nothing to do with arts. We had nothing to do with those schools.
Okay, I was just asking a
No,
question
not-
out loud. I don't know why they would
Not
be.
at all. And so, in fact, our graduation rate this year helped theirs because we
Yes,
had a
sir.
100% graduation rate.
Okay.
But we are with King and Queen, Patrick, I have a list here, Giles, With Bland, Radford, Bodetot, Bristol, Washington, it's a bunch of schools.
Bedford, Lynchburg, any of those in there?
The students are enrolled in the school, but we're not working with those districts.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, any other questions before we move on to action? Thank you so much for coming back and
My
answering
pleasure.
our questions. Thank you. Mr. Nichols, anything else?
That's it, Mr. Honeycutt.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to
Action.
action. Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry. So we're moving on to our action items. Can I get a recommendation? This is Roman numeral 6. Can I get a recommendation that the school board approves the personnel recommendations regarding employments, resignations, retirements, transfers, supplements, and adjustments?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Have a
Second.
motion from Ms. Garner and a second from Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes. Letter C, color schemes for the new middle and high school. Can I get a recommendation the school board approves the color scheme presented by Blue Justice Upton for the new middle and high school?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Garner and a second from Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
No.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
No. Letter D, and what wording do we want to put in there?
I can make a motion.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, please.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the contract with K-12 virtual education with the change for the 90-day notice as listed, and that's all I need to say.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Edwards, a second from Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion?
Was
Well-
that, excuse me?
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
Did he mention that there was a change in the amount per student?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be in the contract, so I'm just.
It's in the contract. We have a copy
He
of the
already-
contract.
You already have a contract?
As long as the new contract stipulates that amount?
Right, yes.
Thank you.
And just one other question from me, and Mr. Brad has vetted this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
No.
Mr. Campbell?
Abstain.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
No. Can you give me the count, please, Paula, just real quick?
5 yes, 2 no, 1 abstain.
Okay, so the motion passed. And that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Good night.
Have you eaten?
Normally.
And look, we'll just vote on that. We're gonna vote on that.
We don't have to vote on it.
We're not vote on it, but I'm just saying for next month. Yes, share, yes. Yes, if you just send it out to the rest of the board members, thank you. Actually, I'm going back to work and then I'm going home.